Hey, 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 welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Doing Divorce Right or Avoiding It Altogether. I'm Jennifer Hurvitz and I'm here again. It's Tuesday. It's the new year. Hi, everybody. I'm going to slow it down. I'm always so excited and hyped up because I have these awesome guests with me. And I just, it gets better every week. I feel like I bring you these guests and they're fabulous and amazing. And this is no exception today. I'm going to start by reading. You get to see today too, because I'm actually doing a little video. I never really do video, but I'm going to start doing some video. So today I figured Juliana and I both look pretty good. So I figured we'd do a little video today, Juliana. Hi, honey.
Hi.
So I'm going to start by reading your fantastic bio because it's awesome and you're awesome. And if you don't mind, can I do that?
Oh, please. Yes.
Before I bring you out. Hi. Okay. So Dr. Juliana, I said it Juliana, right? I said it right.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Is the girl next door. Okay. With a PhD. She's always up for a down and dirty, I love this conversation about sexuality and intimacy, which is, of course, my favorite thing to talk about. And as a credentialed, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right? Okay, good. Credentialed. I'm like, credential. That sounds credentialed therapist, academic, and bona fide. I love this. SEX-pert, which an S, SEX-pert, right? Dr. Juliana has spent decades counseling and supporting thousands of individuals on their paths to discover their own sexual agency. Did I say that right? Okay. Having her own journey through love, loss, motherhood, and the world of academics, Dr. Juliana has come to understand that ownership over one's own sexuality is at the foundation of every strong, confident person. I love that. She has developed a clear, action-driven method to help people. Oh, we'll talk about that. Can we talk about that? Your action-driven method? Okay. Action-driven method to help people of all backgrounds discover their own power through sexual exploration, and has created an online community. I love your online community, by the way, where they can stay connected as they transform their lives. Hi, Dr. Juliana. How are you?
Hi. Great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm just so glad you're here. I love it. Can I tell everybody how we met?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is just the funniest thing. So we both, and I'm going to toot our horns for us, we both were on oprahmagazine.com, right? And you're on there all the time. You're on there all the time. Like every time I'm like, okay, she got quoted again. And she's been on, because you're a rock star in the sex field, right?
Well, thank you. Sarah is good to me, so I'm lucky.
We love Sarah Berger. She's great. And I think I was quoted a couple times, but every time I read it, I'm like, there she is again. She's got more sex talk. I may actually use you in my TED Talk because I think you've got some great stuff. I might quote you. Can I do that?
Oh, please. Yeah.
I might quote you on the TED Talk stage, the TEDx Talk. You need a TED Talk.
Congratulations, by the way. I'm so excited for you.
Thrilled. We're going to get you a TED Talk. You're next. I feel like you're next. So tell me, where do we start? Like, what should we even start with? There's so much to talk about. I feel like there's so much to talk about.
There is. I mean, I've heard about you for years, as I said to you before, and I love how open you've been about your life and your journey and story. And that's part of what I've done too, is trying to show people through example, not just through my education, but through the life that I've lived, that this is important and you can change your life if you're living what I'm teaching. And the proof is in the pudding for me. And for the people that I've worked with. And it's always thrilling to be able to share that with somebody. Because as we were talking about before, sexuality isn't something that a lot of people feel comfortable with, right. Or even are they what are you going to say? What are you going to say about yourself? What are you going to ask me to do? And but I just have such a passion of making it be something normal, that we should be able to talk about it without shame, without embarrassment, and that it's a part of us and a natural part of us. And wouldn't we be better off if we understood that?
Don't you think? I mean, it's so funny because I was talking with you before we started recording, and I have so many girlfriends, and we sit around, they're like, oh, my relationship, we're fine. We haven't had sex in 6 months, but that's totally normal. And then I'm like, I don't really, guys, that's not really normal, normal, quote unquote, but what is normal? I think everyone has that question. They always ask me, and I do the research and I read what you write and I go on your Facebook page and I'm like, what is normal? Can you tell us is there a normal? I think, do you mind if I put you on the spot and just ask you?
Yeah. Well, I'm asked that a lot. What is the best amount of sex that you're having, or how do you know if you're having a good sex life? And it's, to me, I think you probably would predict this, there is no normal with it, but there are outliers and there are warning signs, and there are a canary in the mind of saying something is off. Right. And where you are in your life, where you are in your health and mental health, where you are in your relationship, all those things come into play as to what your sexual life is, and especially your sexual life and connecting with somebody else. But if you're not sexually connecting at all, then absolutely, then there is an issue at hand. And what I always think, what happens inside the bedroom happens outside the bedroom. What happens outside the bedroom plays out inside the bedroom. So like when I work with couples, that's what we're talking about a lot. Or if I work in my groups, we are looking at like almost like a spider web. It can't just be one thing. It isn't just how often are you having sex. It is also all the other things that are a part of it. And it usually takes months to kind of sift through all of that to find out like where are the parts that you can that are your strengths that you can use to build on to have a better sexual connection with yourself and with somebody else, and where are the challenges that you need to learn more about, that you need to support, that you need to sift through and get more insight on. And that's a huge endeavor just individually. And then you add another person into that relationship, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of work to do, but it's exciting and it can change everything.
Yeah.
When you can find a reconnection in your sexual life again.
I agree. I totally agree. You know, it's funny because people say like, you know, what is a sexless marriage, right? What is a sexless marriage? And I actually wrote an article for worthy.com. I actually was quoted or whatever. And someone says, do you stay? Like, do you stay in a marriage for the kids, like in a sexless marriage? And I had to really think about that. It's so hard to say each marriage is like a divorce is like a snowflake, right?
Yeah.
Everything is so different. And I stayed. Did I stay too long? Did I not stay too long? Was I, it's just so hard. I feel like everyone's so different, right?
Yes, it is. And and then again, it's like, what do we mean by sexless?
Right.
And what exactly does that mean? That you literally aren't doing like penetrative sex anymore? Does it mean you don't hold hands? Does it mean that you do a peck, but it's not a passionate kiss? Like how do we even define what sexless means?
Right.
I mean, in general, I think we all know, but when I dive into it and ask people more questions, like, talk to me about your kissing life. And when I ask that with all of my clients.
Right. Because I love kissing. I love kissing. But I never kissed my husband. Sorry, husband, but he knows. But I never kissed him. But I love kissing. And how do you go on? I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is so good for me.
Well, I actually think kissing is almost the pinnacle of a relationship. So I'll start on that before we talk about penetrative sex. Like what were your first kisses like? Aww. And what is your kissing pattern? What do you like in a kiss? Do you think your partner kisses well? Do you think you kiss well? And what all does that mean? And can you get that back? And there'll be some people like, I can have sex, I can kind of close my eyes, I can just zone out or do a to-do list, but I can't kiss.
Well, that breaks my heart.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
And to go back to your question about do you stay in a sexless marriage? I mean, I do think that's an individual answer. Mm-hmm. I think it's an important question. And I like to add, can you live in a marriage, a relationship that doesn't have a sexual connection, a sexual heat to it? Knowing that it goes up and down, but if it's completely non-existent, then that's different. And especially if that's not agreed upon. Right. And because there are some people that are okay, or there's periods in your life that it isn't a priority, or it isn't of interest, or it's not even something you're able to do. But if one or both are wanting it, it predominates the relationship and the conflict.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're at different places and, one wants, and then it becomes that rejection, right? Yes. And the elephant in the room. And I remember laying there going, do I do it? Do I not do it? Does he want me? Does he want? And it's it just is that cyclical, how do you, right? How do you get back there? It's just that, oh my God, it is. And it just, every client that walks in, they're like, we're not having sex and he doesn't want me. And I'm like, okay, let's call Dr. Juliana.
Yes.
I feel like,
I also have this theory too, and I've heard other people say it about that we all want to be seen, wanted, and appreciated.
Yes.
And so sometimes too, I'll step back again from talking about sexual, physical connection. Like, okay, so how do you show that you're wanted? How do you like to be wanted? Yeah. How do you like to be seen? How do you like to be appreciated? All of that. Different than the love languages, but in a similar vein. Yeah. And it's amazing how much sex can and should come out in those answers too, your sexual connection. Ultimately, so that's almost where I would go with the answer to, do you stay in a sexless marriage? For those who are not having the sexual connection, the level that I would prefer in my own life, they are being fulfilled in feeling wanted in different ways, and being fulfilled and being seen in different ways, so that need is met. But a lot of people, the sexual relationship is where those things are highlighted.
Yeah. That was me. I'm like, I just need more.
Yes. Yes.
What in the actual, yeah, totally. Okay.
I'll tell you something else that I like to do, talking to people about their sex lives, is I like talking about, like, I'll ask somebody, and my friends, I'm sure with your friends too, like, they're just like, what are you going to ask us next? Like, what
shall just get together?
Like, and they're used to like some random question. And anyway, so one of my things I was working on last year, like just a theory, was like, so I would ask, like, so what are you best at in bed? Like, what are your top 3 things?
Oh, I love that.
You
Can we go out?
like
We need to go out, Dr. Juliana. This is awesome. I love it. Okay.
So I'll give you an example, and you can answer if you want to, or you don't have to. But so I asked a friend of mine, and on outward appearance and in her interactions, she comes off pretty conservative, dresses conservative, reserved, sweet as pie, but you just look at her as conservative. And so when I asked her, I was like, so like, what are you best at in bed? And she said, I'm a risk taker. Oh. And I was like, no shit, really? I was like, I wouldn't have guessed it. That is awesome. Which is, again, like, part of what I love in my job. It's like, so many times I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's awesome. I love it when people surprise me in that. But so she gave different answers, because sometimes I'll say, like, I want to know, like, how do you present yourself in bed or in a sexual connection? And what are your top skills that you think, like, you're really good at in doing in bed? And then I'll say, okay, so how does that translate outside of the bedroom? So with her, we talked about her career. So she's a risk taker in bed. She's able to do all these risky things, or to do new things. She's up for whatever her partner wants to do. But in her career life, that wasn't happening. She was not taking risks. She wasn't doing that. So we harnessed who she was as a sexual woman and what she felt good at and a confidence. And we looked at, like, what was the atmosphere with her current lover? What did he bring out in her? And what did she allow to happen? And so if you can do that in the bedroom, which is one of the most intimate places that you show up authentically to somebody, where can we do that in your career or your family relationships or as a parent? And at first blush, people are like, how does how I show up in bed have anything to do with, like, what I'm doing in the boardroom? But it does. It does. It's because we're talking about knowing who you are. Absolutely. And that's like the underpinning of what I like to teach, is like the holistic view of sexuality, of understanding that your sexuality isn't just who you're attracted to and what you do with your body or to someone else's body. There's just a whole huge circle of what involves in your sex. And when you know that means you know yourself.
Yeah, you can stand in your space, right?
Yeah.
And and you can connect with people. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I'm trying to think what I would say. I'm going to ask my boyfriend that. It's going to be fun tonight. I'm excited for this. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so add this too. So then ask him how, if he was to describe you in 2 or 3 words, what would be like your sexual personality?
Oh my God, I don't know what he'd say. I know exactly what he'd say.
And then do it for him too.
Okay.
Think for yourself. Like, what are his top 3 skills? How does he show up in bed? What is he best at in bed? And what's his his sexual personality?
Oh, that's so funny. That is so funny. I'm like thinking that I want to be done right now so I can go talk to him. I'm like, sorry, Dr. Juliana, I have to go.
Right. We'll just pause it. We'll put him on speakerphone. We'll find out.
We're going to do another podcast, and you're going to come on with him. It'll be great. He'll love it.
Perfect.
He'll love it. He'll be like, this is awesome. Because he hasn't gone through enough with me, I'm sure. Right? I love this. Okay, so wait. So now you have 2 programs, right?
Several.
Several programs, but your new one you have coming out soon is called The Wanting.
The Wanting, yes.
Okay, tell us.
I am oftentimes when I'm asked, like, at a Q&A or people take me aside privately, usually the questions fall into 2 categories. Okay. One is about pleasure and anatomy. Oh. And so I have a whole thing I call Be Your Own SEX-pert that teaches, like, the sex ed that we should have had that we weren't given.
Come on, yeah.
And then the second one, it often goes into libido. and desire. So I don't like the word libido. I think it's just been too scientific and too watered down. And there's a negative reaction, kind of like the word masturbation.
That should be your TED Talk.
About the watered down or
About you don't like the word libido.
Libido. Yeah, I don't like it.
Your TED Talk. That should be your TED Talk. That would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Well, people are so interested in it because we are, especially as women, we are confused as to why does our libido change? We're not taught that our desire can change. Yeah. And so the course really, first of all, it redefines what desire is. Okay. And takes out the old scripts that we were given about what it means to feel sexually attracted and attractive, how to connect with ourselves, our own sexual selves, how to know ourselves sexually, and then how to connect that with somebody else and to find like the fire inside of us. And one of the first lessons that I teach is I have an image that I ask everyone to come up with what their image is. If you were to put a metaphor or an image to what your sexual desire is right now, what would it be? What would yours be?
I don't know. I'm thinking that's hard. I don't know. Like right this minute? Oh God. I don't know.
So you think about it. I'll tell you what mine is.
Okay.
And then I started, then it became like the image for the whole part of the wanting. Okay. So the first thing that came to mind for me was a bonfire. And I thought that, you have to tend to it. The first part of it is with lots of care, you have to have the embers and you have to put the little pieces that go on top of it. You start it and it grows and it's small, but everything comes down to feeding the embers and the grounding of the bonfire. But then you add stuff to it and you'll have little sparks and things that fly up unexpectedly. And then you'll have like a roaring, like, oh, wow, like this is a cool part of it. And then you'll have even more, like almost like fireworks that come out of it. And then it dies back down again. Yep. And there's the ebb and flow that it's supposed to be as you forget about it and you take it for granted. And then all of a sudden you're cold. You're like, oh shit, I need to put some more stuff on the bomb, on the fire.
Yeah.
But if you let it all go out, if you don't ever keep to the foundation of it, then you do have an issue and everything changes. So for me, I look at desire like a bonfire.
That's awesome.
I've had people say, well, it's a swamp, or it is a stove that the pilot light is out, or it is, I had one person describe his as a golden box that when you open it up, there are lovely surprises in it. Others that described it as fireworks or a first aid kit. I mean, it's fascinating what people have come up with. And when you start with that image of what your desire is, then you can go to, where do I want it to be? Like what is, and because that's a very important part of my work is, and why I use the other one, be your own SEX-pert, because I'm an expert in sexuality, but I'm not your expert. Okay. And we're not taught how to become our own SEX-perts, our own expertise on sexuality. So I want to empower people to be able to make those decisions on their own. So I don't want to tell anybody how their sexual desire should feel or how it should look. I want them to have the skills and have the questions and have the answers in order to define it for themselves. So that's what I did the course with, and it's all online. I did your own self, like videos that you can do, but I really love doing it in groups. So a lot of my work is virtual, and I work with people all over the world. We'll have people that, like the last time I did this group, I had a woman, we had Australia, we had California, we had Scotland, and then a whole bunch of people in the US, and people were in their pajamas and going to bed, waking up. And it's so beautiful to be able to hear your experience, the hardships and the sadness that you have and the things you're ashamed to say, or you can't tell your friends in your community that we're not having sex. Or my husband watches porn all the time, or I do, or I don't think I ever want to have sex again, or I feel broken. But you can say it to strangers who are feeling those kinds of things too, and trying as hard as you are also. So anyway, so I came up with the wanting.
That's amazing.
And it's exciting. And I'll tell you one other thing that I'm doing that I love doing. It's become kind of taking off like wildfire right now. Is I really believe in telling your sexual story, your sexual history. And if you think about it, and I'm sure, I mean, I know you're probably an outlier like me, that I'll tell you whatever. Like you ask me a question, I'll tell you about my sexual stories. But when I realized that, like you have this person you can tell this story to, but you probably can't tell that story to this person at this place or whatever it is. That you may have experience of sharing your sexual history, the celebrations, as well as the things that you're healing from. But you don't ever get a full picture, and you don't ever really understand what patterns are that are growing in your sexual life, and thusly in growing who you are as a person. And so I came up with a step-by-step process of how to go through your sexual history.
That's cool.
And launched it this summer with Betty, which I don't know if you've seen everything that's been launching on Goop Lab. Have you seen that? It's been the news past 2 days.
No.
Betty is a doctor, is a dear friend of mine, Carmen Ross, and they do something called Body Sex.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah. So I actually presented it at the Body Sex conference this summer, and had a group, and it was absolutely transformative. So I'm excited to.
That's really cool.
To launch that also.
That's really cool. So we can find everything though. We're going to put everything in the show notes, but the wanting fills up fast.
Yes.
Right? It's fast. So you have to be quick if you want to get involved.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to have that in the show notes. We're going to have your website is Dr. Juliana, but it's a hyphen, Dr. hyphen Juliana.com, where that's going to be in the show notes also. Everything's going to be there for everyone to find. I love you. I think you're awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You have to come back. You have to come back. I'm trying to think of what my what I would be. I can't think. I need some time to think.
Yes, get back with me on it. I can't wait to hear what it is.
I will. I'm so excited. So what else is it? So if there's anything that you could tell my listeners, like I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But like one thing to take with them, or one tip, or one big thing. I don't know. Something else.
I would say start talking about you as a sexual person. Find safe people that you can start saying. Yeah. And I start in two different ways. Okay. Find somebody or a group of people that you can say something that is vulnerable. That is something that, and it may be one person or maybe a couple of people that you do, but be the one to say, I'm going to say this. And I don't know if you experience this or if you've never done this before, but I need it to be heard. And I can tell you, if you make that leap and you make that vulnerability with a safe person that loves you and is not going to be judgmental of what you have to say, the release that you get from the shame, and how often someone else is like, me too. Like I felt the same way, or I know somebody else who has done that. Because I think so much of getting connected with yourself sexually is releasing shame, because and everyone has the most interesting things they're ashamed of that someone else they'd be proud of.
Right.
We feel shame to.
Isn't that funny? It's so funny to me because that is so interesting that I think the same thing. It's like, why would people are so judgmental. I feel
of ourselves, of each other. Yeah. And we keep something in, and we keep a secret in, and build on it and make the story around it and make it mean something else. And then you say it out loud and the world doesn't end and you don't die. And someone else is like, oh, I did that 12 years. Oh, okay. Like
I did that. You're like, I got you.
Yeah, that. Really? God, I wish I
like been there.
Yes. Or someone says, I'm so glad you did it. I'm so glad that you shared that. And then I think that say your vulnerable thing to the safe person. And equally, the same kind of safe person is tell something great. Because I think also, especially when you're married, it doesn't seem as kosher to be like, I just had the best sex last night with my husband or my boyfriend or whatever. It seems to be sexual celebrations seem to be for your past, when you were, much younger, instead of like in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, being able to celebrate, I'm still having great sex, or I just pulled this great move out, or we just did this fun fantasy thing. And so make the effort to tell a story of celebration also. Yeah, I agree. I think that's awesome. I think you're great. I think that's so cool. We need to come back. You'll come back next time. We'll talk about, I would love to talk about talking about sex with your children. Yes. Can we do that? Yes, I would love to. I have teenagers and I talk about sex all the time. And my boyfriend's like, he can't believe what I talk about with them. And I'm like, what do you mean? I've been talking about sex for my entire life. Like, that's just normal to me, right? So I think it's so taboo in some places. In other places, it's so like the norm. So I would love to delve into that. Oh, I would love to too. I've got two stories to remind me to tell you about when we do it. One is asking my son what it was like to be raised by a sexual educator. And the other one was because we both have that, like my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, like their friend, being in the South too, like being in Charlotte, and all the kids, I'm like trying to block them. And then I'm like, you know what? Like I can't anymore. I can't, so it's like, Yes. And And we want to be able to be honest and
Right.
be able to say those things. But yeah. And then I wrote an article that years ago when my son went off to college. And a lot of it was what I hoped for him in his sexual life. And it was
Oh,
quite controversial. And
I
I
love
got lots of feedback.
it. Let's talk about it. I actually
Yes.
wrote an article
Yeah.
called, for blunt moms called, My Perfect Pussy.
Oh, I love it.
And it was about STDs and how I started dating again and how getting after divorce and how, your pussy has to be perfect. Like it basically you
Yes.
have to shave it perfectly and you have to make sure it's like STDs and the HPV shot and
Daunting.
everything. And I was like, and people were like, oh my God. I'm like, you know what? Like, it's how it goes, and
And you're thinking it, and you're thinking, I'm just saying.
everyone's like, yes, she said it. She said it. I'm like, oh God. Like my TED talk, I'm scared. I'm a little bit scared for everybody. Because
It's going to be
people are like,
amazing.
they're letting you on that red dot. I'm like, they're letting me on the red circle. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to do it. And people are like, oh no. I'm excited. So,
Oh,
we'll
it's
see.
so wonderful. I know. I want to come see it. I actually really do.
Oh
I
my
want
God.
to
No,
come see you and support
I'm
you.
so nervous.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think like a TED stage is just different. I'm trying to psych myself, like, make it okay. But for
Yes.
some reason, it just feels a little different to me. I don't know. So
Well, I get
wish
that.
me
I mean, there's a lot behind it with the red letters and
I
the
just,
video that will be going and all of that. But how
I'm,
exciting to get your message out. I mean, that's the
thank you.
thrilling
I'm
part.
sweating. I'm actually sweating thinking about it, to be honest.
Thinking about it.
Oh my gosh. I loved having you today. You're a doll. I love it. I love
Thank
finally
you for
seeing you in
having me
person.
on.
I'm actually going to put our video up because I think this is good. This is good stuff.
Good.
I appreciate you so much being here. And so
Oh,
one more
thank
time,
you.
tell everybody where we can find you.
Yes. So, Dr. then slash or like dash,
Yep.
Juliana with one N,
Awesome.
.com.
Awesome. Everything's there.
Yes. Everything's there.
That's like me, JenniferHurvitz.com. It's easy peasy. It's easy,
Yes.
right? It's easy.
Yes.
Oh God, I'm so glad you were here, honey. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
And
you for having
everybody
me.
else, you're fabulous. Thank you. And everybody else, you know where to find me, JenniferHurvitz.com, Jennifer Hurvitz Biz on Instagram and all that good stuff. And follow us and talk about sex with everybody and just go have sex and intimacy and just do it. It's fun. And that's it. And so, that's it, everybody. Have a great day and Happy New Year. And thanks for joining us every week here on Tuesdays. And I don't know, everybody. That's it. Everybody, thanks for being here. And once again, peace, love, and lots of truth. Bye, everybody.
Mm-hmm.